Welcome back to another edition of the Knight Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie O'Leary, to talk about the first commitment of the 2024 offseason, I guess 2025 offseason for Rutgers football. They got a commitment today from defensive tackle from JamesMadison, Darold DeNgohe. He is a local kid. He went to high school at LaSalle College, which should sound familiar. That's also where Sam Brown went. It's where walk-on Cole Kozlowski went along the offensive line. So we'll get into that commitment. We'll get into a new offer that was sent out today and a few other portal guys that we're going after. But first, this podcast is once again presented to you by Knight and Day Apparel. Hey, Rutgers fans, get ready to slam dunk your style with Knight and Day Apparel. Cheer on your Scarlet Knights this basketball season in our exclusive Rutgers gear. From trend-setting designs to lifestyle garments, we got you covered with everything you need to support your team in comfort and flair. Stand out in the crowd and show your passion for Rutgers basketball with designs that celebrate every dunk, dribble, and victory. Use our promo code RutgersRivals to get 10% off your purchase. Don't wait. Head to Knight and Day Apparel and gear up for game day. Go Knights.
This new? This is pretty sweet.
Oh, yeah, that is sick. That was there yesterday.
I didn't see that. I'm a big quarter zip guy, so I like that. I like the logo, too, obviously.
Yeah, yep. I did end up buying that shirt yesterday, the heavyweight new white Rutgers one.
This one?
The one right in the middle. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's a nice shirt, too. You don't really see the Knight logo ever.
For good reason. That Knight logo is not great.
It's fair.
But it's what it is.
What are you going to do?
We're also presented to you by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch games as they happen. It has the largest selection of odds from everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your welcome bonus and your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. So let's talk about this new commitment. Darold DeNgohe, he is listed at 6'2", 290 pounds, I believe. The defensive tackle. He's from Glenside, PA. He went to LaSalle College. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, which is huge. In 2024, he had 28 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 kick block. PFF-wise, he graded out a 66.6. There is a caveat, though. When you look at his game log, his three of his 4 highest graded games on the season came in the last 3 games of the season. His highest graded game on PFF was the last game of the season. So as the season went on, he clearly was making a lot of progress and trending upward. And he's a guy who very athletic. We couldn't find tape on him, but the kick block he had was very impressive. Tell us a little bit about how this commitment came together.
Yeah, so he visited campus earlier this week. Actually, I shouldn't say earlier this week. Yesterday. He was on campus on Wednesday, similar to Doug Blue Eli, the other defensive tackle that we mentioned. Now, he is, like you said, a LaSalle College high school guy. He actually visited Rutgers once before, back in March 2022, I think it was. Yeah, March 2022. So the staff was familiar with him. He actually drew some interest from Rutgers, from Penn State, Virginia Tech, and UConn, all schools that didn't offer but were close to offering. He was a long-time Temple lean, and then ended up committing to JamesMadison late in the process. But either way, they're very familiar with him. He's a local kid. He fills the need of a defensive tackle, and they're not going to go after just one defensive tackle. They're going to go after multiple. Now, looking at what I was told is he actually weighed in, I should say, at 6'2" and 305 pounds. So he's a little bit beefier than the 290 that he's listed at. That's huge because they need more beef up front. They're losing Malcolm Ray, they're losing Keontae Hamilton, and they're losing whom else? Troy Rainey. So they want to get at least 2 defensive tackles this cycle, if not more. Like I said in the last podcast, if you saw the defensive line rotation in general, it went from like guys dominating the snap count to everyone kind of rotating in 20 to 25, 30 snaps evenly. That's what they like to keep doing going forward, and that's where a guy like this can help a lot. On top of it, he's got 3 years left, and he had a pretty solid season at JamesMadison, which was one of the top teams in takeaways this past season. Their defensive linemen this year had multiple pick sixes. Like, all the guys across the front four for James Madison are super athletic. We've mentioned them before. Eric O'Neill's another one. He didn't enter the portal yet, maybe. Who knows? We'll see if he does again. But another Jersey guy. But yeah, no,
Who
I mean,
is incredible this year. He was one of the highest graded defensive ends in football. Crazy stats.
If he enters, I wouldn't be shocked if he got a nice little payday. But 3 years left is huge. Redshirted in year one. And then this past season's 28 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, a sack, and like you mentioned before, a blocked extra point, which is kind of just goes to show you how disruptive he could be in that interior. This is a guy I really like. Graded out really well, 235th out of 878 offense or defensive tackles. Pretty good rush defense grade. Pretty good. Looks like just a run stuffer, honestly, based on the stats and based on the limited film that's out there. And that's kind of what they want. That's what they need too. So. We'll see what he can do next season.
Yeah, no, it's a big time pickup. 3 years of eligibility, obviously huge. It seems to be what the staff looks for is guys who are still going to have time for growth and development. Obviously, they picked up guys like Isaiah Eiton and Malcolm Ray, but I think they prefer guys with multiple years of eligibility if they had the choice, which I guess shouldn't surprise. It's also interesting, though, the first portal commitment is from a James Madison guy. We have, our favorite defensive coordinator candidate is Lyle Hemphill. Think there's any connection there or just coincidence?
Probably just coincidence, if I had to guess. I know you sent me the video, but there is a video out there of him and Lyle Hemphill on the James Madison podcast together, interviewing one another, which was kind of funny to watch. So there is some connections there. I think they'd be insane not to go after Lyle Hemphill. I feel like he's an up-and-coming defensive coordinator. He's got the stats to prove it. So yeah, I mean, that's the number one guy now, especially because it sounds like Heatherman is probably out because of that extension, and it sounds like Steven Belichick is probably out now too.
Yeah, Steve Belichick's definitely out because it sounds like he's coming with Bill Belichick to UNC. Lots of crazy coaching hires have been made in the last 24 hours. You got UNC hiring Bill Belichick. You got West Virginia rehiring Rich Rodriguez. You got UCF rehiring Scott Frost. Just what a wild coaching search in general.
Yeah. UNLV went with Dan Mullen, which is just a weird one. But this offseason is wild. It's fun, honestly. It's only been a week or two.
In terms of content, it's been great for sure. Anything else about Darold? I'm sure we'll have more over the next, coming days and weeks, but just is there anything off the top of your head that you wanted to mention about him?
He did give me a couple quotes, mentioned a lot of things about the staff and the relationships that they have with the players is really what stood out to him. He said after talking to some of the players, you could just really see how they connect well with the coaches. Julian Campenny actually offered him out of high school at a Bowling Green. I forgot to mention that one before. Kent State also offered him, but it wasn't Colin Farrell who was the main recruiter. In terms of why he's leaving, it just sounds more like he just wants to move up a level. I'm sure he'll probably get some kind of payday versus what James Madison can offer. Can't imagine the CAA contract is all that good. Or no, they're not in CAA. What are they in now? Sunbelt.
Yeah, Sunbelt.
Yeah, I can't imagine the Sunbelt contract is really all that good for revenue sharing. But and he's just seems like a solid prospect, multi-years. I think this is one that's definitely a rotational piece, if not a potential starter. I would say rotational piece guaranteed this season. Starter to be determined.
Yeah, during that interview, another thing that I thought was cool, he came over from Cameroon and he was 9 years old with his mom. He played soccer growing up. He was a goalie in soccer, and he said he was a pretty thin kid for most of his life. He didn't really start getting big until he was a sophomore in high school, and that's when he found football as well. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Still fairly new to the game, so I imagine there's a lot of room for growth there, and I imagine that's one of the reasons the staff targeted him. Speaking of targeting, it seems like the staff's really kind of all in on trying to land a handful of defensive tackles. We already talked about Doug Blue Eli, who has an offer, made it on campus. You have Darold, who is now committed. They offered another guy out of the portal today as well. This was a defensive tackle out of AbileneChristian. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. His name is David Oke. He's listed at 6'2", 290. He's from Houston, Texas. He went to, I believe, Hastings High School. On the year, he had 63 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 2 pass breakups, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a blocked kick. He played 1 game against FBS competition, and that was against Texas Tech. He had 5 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup in that game. On the season, he had a 79.5 grade, which was 52nd out of 878 qualifying defensive tackles. Ton of offers. There's about 20 offers from the Power Four. So this is a well-known kid. What are you hearing about David Oke?
Nothing new yet. The offer just happened this morning, it seems like, at least from his perspective, tweeting it out. Based on the fact that he's a Houston native, Texas guy, spent time down at AbileneChristian, which is Texas, I'd be shocked if he really left that area. But money can change things, so who really knows? But looking at that offer sheet, if that's all legit, I have a hard time seeing him choosing to go all the way to the Northeast when there's plenty of schools right around the corner, from Texas Tech to Oklahoma State, Arkansas, all kind of right there. So plus we know like a school like Kansas State's not too far either, and they have significant money. So we'll wait and see. Really early on that one, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and his AbileneChristian team took Texas Tech to overtime. They lost 52-51 in a game at Texas Tech. The reason they lost is because in overtime, their coach went for 2 on the first touchdown. So he was going for the win. Didn't happen. But just crazy that they even put that kind of game together against Texas Tech.
I respect that, though. From like an AbileneChristian level, it's like, fuck it, let's just win this thing. You know how much hype that would have made? Like, oh, jeez.
Yeah. So that's the latest offer. If you're trying to keep up to date with what's going on in the portal, you got to be on the boards. We had 30-some guys get followed yesterday, 40-some the day before, 50-some the day before that, and we have the entire list of all the guys we're following, and all these guys we're on, who we are offering, we're on those follow lists, so you got to stay tuned to that. That's all I got on that front. Is there anything else you wanted to hit on before we head out of here?
Yes. This is actually kind of a shorter one now, I just realized. December 17th. We tweeted it out last night, but the University Board of Governors will be having a meeting. Couple interesting things on this one. It includes a new salary for the offensive coordinator, aka an extension for Kirk Shiraka. I'd say deserved. How much more are you going to pay him, though? That's like you're already up there in like what, top 10, top 15 in the country in terms of OC pays. But obviously that's just going to keep jumping higher and higher every year with more coaches just getting more and more money. Accepting of a bid for the apparel deal. Damn, I wore the wrong logo today. Damn, you wore the wrong logo today. There we go. We got one.
There you go.
So hint. I mean, we've been saying this since September, October now.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Interesting little tidbit there. I'm told the basketball team is will be outfitted immediately, because that was the big driving point behind this, with Nike jerseys. They also have a couple different jerseys for Rutgers. They have a home, away, and I'm also told they have an old school / retro, whatever you want to call it. I don't know the logistics about which one that is. All I know is that I was told via a source that it has the old New Jersey logo with the old Knight on it. Now, I believe that's also on the back of the white ones by the neck collar, and then it's also on the shorts of the red ones. So that's where it gets tricky. It could be either one of those. I don't believe it's on the one that has the script Knights, but I could be wrong. So I'll have to double check on that. But either way, there is at least one retro, if not more. So they're ready to go. The rest of the programs, though, this is where it gets actually really interesting. Does the football team for the bowl game do that taping or spatting, whatever they call it, and you just cover the logo for the bowl game? Because they're not going to have different jerseys, it sounds like every other program is going to rock with Adidas for the rest of the academic year, calendar year, one of the two. I'm not sure. I would assume the rest of their seasons currently. I can't imagine them just Nike fast-pacing, shipping a giant order of wrestling singlets and softball, baseball uniforms for spring. Maybe you have enough time for that, I guess. But it sounds like every other sport's still going to rock Adidas until till the end of their seasons, respective seasons. So that's interesting. And speaking of baseball, softball, facilities upgrade, renovations, we'll see what happens there. Maybe I don't know the logistics yet. Someone speculated it could be lights for the softball team because the baseball team got lights recently. But I don't think you would include baseball in that agenda if you were just doing softball lights. So I think it might be a little bit more than that. So we'll see what happens. It's also cool to see all this happening with an interim AD. I didn't think a lot of this stuff would happen under an interim AD, but the Board of Governors, led by Amy Towers, are kind of not running the show, but they're doing a hell of a job right now. And I mean, Rutgers, I posted it yesterday, even defensive coordinator salary. Like Rutgers is one of the most top 30 in terms of assistant coaching pool salaries. Top 8 in the Big Ten in terms of defensive coordinator salary. Like Rutgers is being competitive when it comes to spending money, and they're not afraid to do it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's they've certainly always seemingly had the money for staff in Shiano's 2.0 era. That's something you couldn't always say in the 1.0 era.
Yeah. Say that again.
Yeah. So like Richie said, a bit of a short pod today, but we wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible. Stay tuned because I'm sure there'll be more news this week. We had some visitors who could be making decisions like Darold any moment. So stay tuned to the board. Stay tuned to your podcast feed because you never know. But for me and Richie, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.